Saturday had arrived much quicker than expected, and Midoriya could feel his heart beating faster and faster within each counting minute. He countlessly reassured himself it was going to be fine, that he was going to Uraraka's house for one reason, and one reason only: to study. From the minute he woke from his slumber, he had been curious to see how today would play out. More like from the minute you agreed to join them with studying at Uraraka's house, but that wasn't important. What was important, however, was the fact that Midoriya's anxiety was getting the best of him. He was ogling his phone screen for what felt like hours, debating whether or not to call Uraraka with a fake cough as he explained why he couldn't make it to the study date. Or what if he had way too many chores to do for the day? He just simply could not make it? Or if his grandma is in town for the weekend and he's planned on spending the day with her? Endless deceitful excuses roamed through his brain until it had finally reached 1 p.m. Midoriya's phone abruptly vibrated in his hands, clicking him out of his internal war within his mind. It was a text he received from Uraraka. His chest grew heavy once he clicked on it.
Mina just showed up with Kaminari, and I think a few others are still coming, including them. What time are you coming?
Midoriya mumbled, reading the words she texted him quietly to himself. He wiggled his thumbs over the keyboard, unsure of what to reply. He would type something, then delete it shortly after. He groaned loudly as if it was some sort of source to relieve stress. A notification popped on the dimly lit screen. Uraraka was waiting for Midoriya's response. 3 question marks she sent him proved it. He replied with a short message, reading,
Okay, I should be there soon.
He didn't want to sound too bland through the text, so he added a thumbs up emoji at the end of the sentence. Midoriya was already dressed and pretty much ready appearance-wise. The only thing stopping him from leaving his house was his lingering thoughts invading his mind, and the burning sensation of uneasiness and nervousness pumping through his tight chest. It was now or never. Midoriya, with a shaky finger, pressed firmly on the doorbell of the small apartment. He breathed heavily and regained his posture by straightening his shoulder blades and spine.
Inhale, exhale, inhale. I don't have to do anything I'm uncomfortable with,
the boy reminded himself, brushing his pants roughly with his hands to remove any hair or lint in an attempt to feel more presentable. Almost immediately after, a sparkling and buoyant Uraraka swung the door open, offering Midoriya to come inside. He thanked her for inviting him over, while he was slipping off his shoes carefully.
Oh, just so you know, they haven't arrived just yet. They should be coming eventually?
Uraraka informed him in a hushed tone, so the others wouldn't hear. Midoriya didn't even know who was there besides Mina and Kaminari, only because Uraraka had told him earlier through text. Midoriya was relieved that you weren't there just yet, only because it gave him a little bit more time to mentally prepare himself. Midoriya and Uraraka entered the living room together, greeted by Kaminari, headlocked by a crying of laughter Kirishima. Momo was watching them with a look of boredom and dissatisfaction, while Mina was recording the delinquent behavior, cheering Kaminari on with a pumping hand and loud shouts. So much for a study date. Midoriya shifted uncomfortably on his standing feet and peered at Uraraka with a confused and questioning expression. She huffed in irritation at the boy's rowdy behavior, then shouted,
Hey! That's enough! You guys are going to break something!
With a stomp of her left foot. She wasn't the one to give orders or commands, but if things are getting a wee bit out of hand, she will end whatever it is immediately. Kirishima released Kaminari out of his tight grip, wiping the tears of laughter off his eyes, gazing up at Midoriya with tired ones. It must have been from the laughter, Midoriya assumed. Kirishima nodded at the boy, flashing a wide smile.
What's up, Midoriya?
He shuffled towards him to shake his hand. Kaminari waved, explaining, out of breath.
Kirishima thought it would have been fun to see how long I could stay in the headlock for.
Kaminari rubbed his now sore neck. Momo greeted Midoriya with a nod and started. Which didn't even last long at all. She added on to Kaminari's statement.
This is rich!
Mina exclaimed, replaying the video she had just finished recording, not really acknowledging Midoriya's presence due to the fact she was indulged by her phone. Not that he minded, though.
Hi, everyone.
Midoriya waved gawkily.
You can sit wherever you like,
Uraraka suggested, crossing towards Mina and taking a seat between her and Momo.
We all agreed to begin studying once everyone gets here, just so we're all working in the same pace.
She added, for Midoriya's knowledge. Midoriya nodded understandingly, replying,
Oh, okay.
So, for the time being, we've been playing a game.
Mina nudged at Uraraka's side with her elbow.
Oh, yeah, we have been. It's childish, actually.
Uraraka waved her hand, scratching the back of her head with her other one. Kirishima sat on the free couch, opposite from where the girls were sitting, and Midoriya followed close behind. Kaminari took a seat on the carpeted floor, next to the girls.
It's been killing time, though,
Kirishima added, lazily slumping his body on the couch. Midoriya carefully took a seat next to him.
What game?
He questioned, slightly tilting his head out of curiosity. Uraraka freely waved her hand, with an embarrassed expression plastered across her face.
Oh, it's kinda dumb. We were just finishing up the game anyways,
she quickly explained, while the others tilted their heads in confusion.
What?
Kirishima leaned into her direction. Then he shortly whispered in a loud enough tone for everyone in the living room to listen to him.
You were just about to tell us who you had a girl crush on in our class.
He whined, obviously intrigued of what her unknown answer was. Ah, so it's some sort of confession game, Midoriya assumed.
I told you I'm not answering questions like that.
Uraraka huffed, then smiled playfully at the redhead.
Hey, what about you, Midoriya? Who's your crush in Class 1A?
Mina pointed to the now alarmed boy. She didn't mean to put him on the spot the way she did. In her defense, she was genuinely curious of who he might have had a crush on in their class. Midoriya wasn't sure of how to answer her question. He didn't want to admit to anyone that he was immensely attracted to you. His fingers were twitching as they rested on his thighs, thinking of how he could dodge Mina's semi-invasive question. He was afraid that if he spoke up, he would have choked on his own words while trying to explain himself. Through each passing second, he could feel the tension in the crowded room getting more extreme. He wanted to punch himself for getting overly overwhelmed by such a simple question. Why couldn't he bring the words to his mind to tell them the answer? Why did he have to overthink such a little thing? Midoriya breathed shakily.
Oh, I think that's them at the door.
Uraraka interrupted, jumping up from her seated position off the couch. Midoriya felt panicked at this point. Not only was he just asked about who he had a crush on nearly a second ago, but the person who just knocked on Uraraka's door was his crush. What kind of sick game is the universe trying to play on him here?
So?
Mina cocked her head, tapping her fingers on her cheek lightly, as her chin rested on her jaw.
I'm not interested in, girls?
Midoriya answered rather lowly, tilting his head to get a glimpse in search of seeing if you were really at the door. Unfortunately, he couldn't see a thing no matter how far he tilted or stretched his head. That darn hallway blocking the front door.
Wait.
Kirishima furrowed his brows, lifting his head from the lightly colored carpet.
That makes you...
Kaminari questioned as his head slowly turned to Midoriya from Kirishima. Then it hit Midoriya what they thought he meant from his last answer. His stomach dropped and he nearly jumped out of his seat in preparation to explain what he really meant.
No, I mean,
Midoriya began, but was caught off guard when he heard unusual loud stomps coming from Uraraka's hallway.
Deku is fucking here too? You've got to be kidding me.
That voice.
No, please, no.
Midoriya mentally panicked once he came to the realization that it wasn't you at the door. It was Bakugo.
Why does this need to happen to me? Why now? Why does the universe enjoy mocking my existence?
Midoriya? Does that mean you're...
Kaminari added once again as he noticed Midoriya hadn't yet finished his explanation. Midoriya wasn't worried about answering their question at the moment. What he was worried about, however, is the fact that out of everyone that was invited to come over to Uraraka's home for a study date, Bakugo felt the need to come. Why Bakugo? Doesn't he have some amount of brains to not need to be tutored? Bakugo was fairly smart, wasn't he? He didn't need to be here, not if you were going to be here as well. Bakugo already knew about Midoriya's crush on you. This meaning, Bakugo was going to make Midoriya go through complete hell of humiliation and utter embarrassment.
Bakugo, you knew Midoriya would be here.
Midoriya could faintly hear Uraraka tell Bakugo that statement from the hallway, followed with an unknown giggle. Wait a minute.
Was that... Did they arrive here with Bakugo?
That is true, Bakugo.
Midoriya heard you inform him. Midoriya choked on his own spit, followed by uncontrollable coughs once the three of you stepped into the living room. He was not expecting the trio to arrive from the hallway so quickly. He didn't even have time to prepare himself as to how he was going to greet you.
Bakugo! Traveler, hey!
Kirishima waved, scrunching his nose and eyes shut as he presented his wide smile. In return, Bakugo crossed his arms firmly, dragging his eyes in Midoriya's direction. However, Midoriya's eyes and Bakugo's did not meet within that moment. Instead, Midoriya's attention was completely on you. It was obvious with his heated, rubicund cheeks and his fidgeting fingers. Bakugo smirked to himself, slowly lifting his arm up and around your shoulders. Midoriya, with all of his might, held himself back from backhanding Bakugo all the way to Hong Kong. Instead, Midoriya clenched his fists and waited for your reaction to his bluntness. You shot him a, "What do you think you're doing?" look, and quickly brushed his arm off of you by wiggling your shoulders.
Hi, everyone.
You nodded and waved, walking over to the couch that Midoriya was sitting on and took a seat right next to him. Midoriya didn't know how to react within this moment. As cheesy as it sounded, he gave you a smile back, as well as a nod. Midoriya wasn't sure of how red his face was at this point, but he was just praying it wasn't as noticeable as he thought it was.
Midoriya, you never answered our question,
Mina announced, pointing in his direction.
What question?
Bakugo asked.
Yeah, Midoriya, so are you or not? Is he what?
You guys shouldn't be asking such personal information.
Momo informed the nosy teenagers, ignoring Bakugo's question as well.
Oi! What the fuck is so personal about this question?
Bakugo announced, raising his voice. Midoriya's head continuously turned in every different direction for whenever someone spoke.
I'm not sure what that question was, but I agree with Momo.
Uraraka stated, stepping closer to Momo's seated spot.
Aww, but he was just about to tell us before you guys walked in.
Kaminari whined. In a fit of annoyance and anger, ignited sparks erupted from Bakugo's palms. In reaction, everyone drew silent, looking at him dumbfoundedly.
What the fuck is this question? I swear to God, if one more person interrupts me or ignores me!
He barked, his arms spread wide, palms facing anteriorly.
You guys didn't understand what I meant by that. What I meant to say is, I'm not really interested in a relationship, which means
Midoriya explained, facing his head down in shame.
Well, sure you are, Deku.
Bakugo sat smack dab in the middle between you and Midoriya, in which you rolled your eyes at the rude action, scooting in a more comfortable position.
I mean, a few days ago you poured your heart out how much you loved Traveler.
Bakugo smirked at Midoriya, who at this point was horrified with the fact that he really just said that, in front of you. Your eyes widened once you processed what Bakugo had just said. You knew Bakugo was always an ass, but did he really feel the need to go this low? The tension within the living room was unbearable at this point.
I never said I loved them.
Midoriya corrected, muttering his words. And that was true, for the most part. Bakugo was just exaggerating Midoriya's words to leave him in a more humiliated state than he was already in.
Bakugo, enough, dude.
Kirishima mumbled in a low tone. Uraraka studied your face, waiting for a reaction from you. Your arms were now crossed, as a dark aura came from your being, glaring at Bakugo for his immature actions. Midoriya, on the other hand, was still facing his thighs. He was rambling thoughts through his brain, attempting to come up with a solution and explain himself.
Bakugo, that wasn't necessary.
You spoke up, defending Midoriya. Midoriya's heart fluttered once he heard you speak.
What? It's not like you even care that this nerd likes you.
Bakugo shrugged, rolling his eyes.
Actually, Bakugo, I do care if he likes me. And if he did or didn't, it's none of your business. You don't need to be a bully about it.
You stood up from your seat, looking down at Bakugo in annoyance. Everyone in the room was giving each other looks. They were all unsure of intervening into the dilemma between Bakugo, yourself, and Midoriya.
Guys, how about we discuss the anatomical terminology of the human body? The quadratic formula? You know, study! That's what we're all here for!
Kaminari announced, standing up. You shifted over to Midoriya, holding out a hand for him. Midoriya, much to his surprise, shot his head up from the view of his jeaned thighs to your face. You gave him a light smile, clearly in an attempt to ease the situation he was currently in.
Thank you, Kaminari, but, Midoriya and I should probably go study somewhere else?
You suggested, shrugging at Midoriya immediately. Midoriya nodded almost immediately himself and took your hand, grasping it firmly.
Why don't the three of us study together, eh? Somewhere else?
Bakugo got up from his seat as well, lazily wrapping his arms over yours and Midoriya's shoulders. Uraraka walked over to the trio, gripping onto Bakugo's arm with a lifted pinky.
Or you can stay here and study with us,
she suggested. Bakugo groaned in a chagrined manner.
What a nice idea, Uraka. Bakugo, you could just stay here while Midoriya and I could just go over to some park and study ourselves.
You nodded, locking your arm with Midoriya's, who flinched at your sudden and unexpected contact. Why? Why were you being so nice?
What the fuck?
Bakugo snapped, annoyed with all of the suggestions.
Yeah, Bakugo, come on. You're really smart, just stay with us.
Kirishima remarked, giving Bakugo a thumbs up, followed by a friendly wink. Bakugo groaned and muttered.
Fine.
He figured there was no use in tormenting Midoriya about his crush with you any longer.
You really want to leave?
Midoriya finally spoke, his head facing you, who nodded eagerly at his question.
Yeah. Do you have your books?
You smiled at him, as your arms were still locked together firmly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Midoriya slightly smiled back, internally grateful of how nice and understanding you were acting towards him, rather than laughing in his face about the whole situation. Bakugo sat back on the couch, legs spread wide with his arms crossed, waiting for you to leave already. Although Bakugo's intention for the day was to humiliate Midoriya, it completely backfired, leaving Bakugo looking like a fool in the end. Not that he cared, though.
Alright, bye everybody. See you guys in class.
You waved, making your way through the hallway. Midoriya's face was plastered with a wide smile, in satisfaction of where things were heading at the moment. He waved to everyone as well, as he thanked Uraka for inviting them to her home. The both of you walked outside of Uraka's home, holding on to your textbooks. You then let go of your tight grip you had on Midoriya. Not that he minded, however.
I was thinking we could find some place near a park, preferably under shade, but we could go anywhere you'd like?
You questioned, tilting your head.
Yeah. I'm okay with wherever, as long as you're comfortable. I've already caused you so much trouble. You were meaning to come here and study in the first place, and now you're forcing yourself to leave some other place with me just so Kachan doesn't harass me. Which, thank you so much. I didn't think you would be so...
Midoriya, it's okay. I came in the first place because I knew you were coming.
You confessed, with no shame in your voice.
Huh? Wait. What? But then, why did Kachan...
He came because he texted me if he could tag along, and that he apparently was failing. Which I knew was a lie, but I couldn't say no. I didn't think he was going to act the way he did.
Midoriya nodded in response.
I'm really sorry for bringing him, Midoriya. I didn't think he was going to act that way. If I knew he was going to act like that, I wouldn't have brought him.
You explained, with worry flowing through your voice.
No, it's okay. You didn't know.
Midoriya reassured.
He does stuff like that all the time. I just didn't think he was going to stoop so low to point out my crush on you as a complete joke.
Midoriya murmured, now facing the floor uncomfortably.
Midoriya, if you don't mind me asking, is it really true?
You questioned, inching closer to the nervous boy. Midoriya began collecting his thoughts.
I think you're amazing. You're really strong and you stick up for the truth and whatever is right. You don't let anyone talk inferiorly towards you or anyone else. When you describe something you're passionate about or one of those awesome stories you tell, you describe them with pride and dignity. You're fearless, yet whenever you do get scared, you make it clear that it's okay to be scared. If that makes sense.
Midoriya breathed, catching his breath.
You genuinely have a good heart, traveler.
Midoriya tilted his head up, scared to see your reaction of his confession.
That's... I know these things because I watch you. In a non-creepy way. I'm just an observant person is all. I don't watch you like how a stalker watches stuff. That's just scary, I mean.
Midoriya! You giggled, covering your mouth.
Yes?
You leaned in fast enough and placed your lips on his, whose heart was beating out of his chest. He didn't even have time to prepare himself. Yet again. His eyes were wide open, burning into your closed ones. He slowly shut them, though, and lowered his hands, as your hands lightly hugged the back of his neck. Midoriya was ashamed of the fact that he had yet to kiss someone, but he wasn't worried about that at the moment. Right now, he was living in a world of complete bliss, and didn't want it to ever end. The way your soft lips felt against his made him feel jittery in his stomach. He was definitely not expecting this in any way, shape, or form, but he was not complaining one bit.
I've had enough working with you dense tools.
You faintly heard from inside of Uraraka's house. That was shortly followed with an opening of the front door. Bakugo dropped his books and scrunched his eyebrows tightly in vexation and disgust, seeing the amorous scene he had just interrupted.
Huh? What the fuck?